All right, so ready for a deep dive into a movie that's, well, it's kind of got it all. White Bird. We're talking 2023 release, PG-13, and it's got this whole blend of drama, family stuff, war, history, all packed into one film.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it got layers, that's for sure. And our trusty guide for this deep dive is going to be the Movie Database, or TMDB, as I hear the kids are calling it these days.
Always got to keep up with the lingo.
Right, so White Bird.
Hmm.
You might be thinking, history mixed with, like, a coming-of-age story. Isn't that a bit much?
A heavy mix, yeah.
But trust me on this one. It's not your typical after-school special kind of thing.
It's interesting, how Whitebird takes this character, Julian, who we kind of think we know from Wonder. He
Yep.
was the bully, right?
Yeah, Julian, he wasn't exactly winning any popularity contests.
Exactly. And they give him his own story. It's not just about kids being mean, though. It's like, it makes you think about how much someone can change, you know? Like, can someone who did bad stuff actually become a better person?
And how much does understanding where they came from play into that whole process?
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Right. Like, are we obligated to forgive just because we hear a sad story? Tough questions.
For sure. And speaking of tough questions, even the tagline for this movie makes you think, one act of kindness lives on forever. That's not your average feel-good message, you know?
Definitely not. It's like, it makes you think about those ripple effects. Good actions, bad actions. They don't just disappear, do they?
It's like that butterfly effect thing,
Yeah.
right? But with kindness instead of, like, a hurricane.
Exactly. And it sets up this story that goes beyond just one person's choices. We're talking generations here. Big stuff.
Okay, so let's get into the actual plot
Hmm.
a bit. TMDB describes White Bird as having this, like, dual narrative thing going on.
Two stories in one.
Yeah, so we've got Julian in the present day dealing with a new school after. Well, let's just say he got kicked out of his old one.
Sounds like those bullying habits might still be hanging around.
Maybe so. And that's where the whole history part kicks in. The movie also takes us back to World War II, Nazi-occupied France.
Wow. Intense.
Right, and this is where Julian's grandmother enters the picture. Turns out she was a young Jewish girl during the Holocaust. And she's never really talked about it.
Heavy stuff to carry around all those years.
Right, and then, for the first time ever, she decides to share her experiences with her grandson, Julian.
Wow. So it's not just about historical facts then, is it? It's about how those events impact real people, like the human cost, the strength to keep going through all that.
Totally, and makes you wonder, why now? Why share this painful past with Julian, especially when he's going through his own struggles?
Right, like what's the catalyst?
Hmm.
And how will he react? So many questions. But I think that's the point, isn't it? To make us think, to make us feel something. This isn't just a history lesson, it's personal.
And it's not all doom and gloom either, right? I mean, obviously the Holocaust was horrific, but even in those dark times, there were stories of incredible courage, of people risking their own lives to help others.
Absolutely. We see that duality in human nature, that capacity for both good and evil. And it's in those moments of incredible kindness that we see hope shining through, even in the darkest of times. And those stories, they deserve to be told just as much as the ones about the horrors, maybe even more so.
Right, because it shows that even when things are at their worst, there's still good in the world. There are still people who choose compassion over hate. And those choices, they matter.
They really do.
So we've got Julian wrestling with his own behavior, then faced with the weight of his grandmother's past. And then there's the grandmother herself, finally opening up about something so painful.
It must be a huge mix of emotions for her, you
Yeah.
know, pain, maybe even some relief at finally sharing her burden. And then there's those folks who helped her during the war. Their bravery, their kindness, it adds a whole other layer to the story.
And you know what really adds to this whole thing? They got Gillian Anderson and Helen Mirren to star in it.
Seriously, talk about a power couple.
Right. Those two together. You know it's going to be good. Anyway, TMDB, they have these keywords for each movie, right? And for White Bird, some of them really stuck with me.
Like what?
Well, obviously you've got Holocaust and Nazi, which, I mean, it's World War II, so.
Yeah, those go with the territory.
Right. But then you also see kindness, Jewish refugee. It's like they're highlighting that contrast, you know?
That push and pull between the awful stuff and those glimmers of hope, it's what makes these historical stories so powerful, I think. You need both sides to really understand.
Totally. Oh, and one more thing from TMDB that caught my eye. White Bird. It's actually based on a graphic novel.
Interesting. So they had a visual blueprint to work with.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how that translates to the screen, you know?
It's like, will they use animation? Or maybe like a really distinct visual style to get those emotions across.
Ooh, good point. All right, so we've talked story, themes, even the actors. But what about how the movie actually did?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. Well, according to TMDb, they spent a good chunk of change on this one, like $20 million budget.
Whoa, that's a pretty penny.
It is, especially for a movie dealing with, heavy stuff. But here's the thing. The box office numbers, not so impressive. Like, only $4.6 million in revenue.
Wait, seriously? So it bombed?
Not necessarily. See, that's the thing with movies like this. Sometimes the box office doesn't tell the whole story.
Because people don't want to think about, like, the Holocaust on their Friday night out.
Maybe. It's tough to say. But a movie like White Bird, it's thought-provoking, It's not exactly popcorn entertainment.
True, true. So maybe it's more of a slow burn. Like, people see it, it sticks with them, they tell their friends.
Exactly. It sparks conversations, makes people think about things in a new way. That's valuable, even if it doesn't break box office records.
Okay, that makes sense. But speaking of reactions, there's something kind of weird about White Bird on TMDb.
What do you mean?
There aren't any reviews.
White.
Like, at all.
Oh, huh. That is strange. Usually a movie with this much buzz, this kind of cast, you'd see something.
Right. Even if it's just, like, one grumpy person complaining about the popcorn prices. But nothing.
Maybe it's deliberate? Like, the filmmakers are saying, just watch it. Form your own opinions. Don't let anyone else tell you what to think.
Ooh, interesting. So it's like, White Bird, the experience. You got to see it to get it.
Exactly. And in a world saturated with opinions, maybe that's a powerful statement in itself.
It's kind of refreshing in a way, right? Like, they're just putting it out there, letting the movie speak for itself.
It takes guts, that's for sure. Especially with the topic as heavy as the Holocaust.
Yeah, no kidding. So what does this all mean for you, dear listener? We've got this movie, White Bird, based on a graphic novel, got some big-time actors, deals with a major historical event, but there's, like, zero critical consensus to tell us what to think.
And maybe that's the point, right? Is like they're saying, don't just take our word for it, or the critics for that matter. Watch it, experience it, and then decide for yourself.
See, that's kind of cool when you put it like that. It's like a challenge, almost.
It is. And let's be honest, we could all use a little less passive consumption and a little more active engagement, right? Especially when it comes to something as important as, remembering the Holocaust, learning from history.
Yeah, totally. It's like White Bird isn't just trying to preach at us. It's inviting us to have a conversation.
Exactly. With ourselves, with each other. It's about acknowledging the tough stuff, the complexities, not just offering easy answers.
Yeah, and maybe that's why there's that personal story at the heart of it all, right? That grandmother sharing her experience with her grandson.
It makes it real, relatable even, because we all have families, we've all got baggage, good or bad.
And sometimes the things we least want to face are the things we need to confront the most.
Exactly. It's in those uncomfortable moments that real growth happens, right? Both for the characters and for us, the viewers.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how would we react if we were in Julian's shoes? Or his grandmother's, for that matter.
Heavy stuff, but important stuff, because it reminds us that history, it's not just dates and names in a textbook. It's about real people, real lives impacted.
And those impacts, they ripple outwards, like those ripples of kindness we were talking about earlier, but on a bigger scale.
Exactly. And it's up to each of us to decide what kind of ripples we're going to put out into the world, right? What kind of legacy we're going to leave behind.
Whoa, okay, now you're getting deep. But seriously, folks, that's what this whole White Bird thing boils down to. It's about confronting tough questions, about facing history head on, about recognizing that even in the darkest of times, there's always that potential for hope, for kindness, for change.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Powerful stuff.
So there you have it, folks. Another deep dive of the books. We've explored the themes, the story, even the lack of reviews.
And hopefully we've piqued your curiosity enough to seek out White Bird for yourselves.
Exactly. See what you think. Let us know. And until next time, keep on diving deep, everybody.